Hi, Take the Leap listeners. Thanks for putting Ashlyn and I in your ears again today. Before we jump into this episode, we wanted to let you know that we've created a fun freebie just for you. If you've been thinking about launching your side gig or small business, we've got a free video training just for that called 9 Steps to Launch Your Business. You can sign up for that video now at www.taketheleap-today.com/webinar to get instant access. You'll also receive 2 free modules from our signature Take the Leap course. Thanks, and now back to the episode.
Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlyn
and Tori,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Take the Leap. We are so excited today for our guest. Yay! Eunice Brownlee. Eunice has spent her life telling stories across many mediums. As a multi-passionate creative, she's used photography, marketing, writing, and public speaking to connect her message to the world. Because the heart of building community begins with sharing stories, Eunice uses her stories to connect, heal, and inspire change. She spends time teaching others the craft of story in her speaking and writing practice. She has coached speakers in telling their stories with Women Speak and TEDx Folsom. When she's not using her voice, she can be found with her nose in a book, seeking her next passport stamp, or drinking wine. Sometimes all three at once. Welcome, Eunice. We're so excited to have you. Thank you for being on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this for weeks since we booked it.
Same. Us too. We've been really looking forward to this. And as you can see, both Ashlyn and I are here together in person today. So this is really fun. we need you in person next time. And it'll be
That'll be like the last time I did a podcast with Ashlyn when I was in the room.
Right? I love this. Well, Eunice, we're just going to jump right off into our first question. And it's the same question we ask all of our guests to start. And what is your take the leap story? Meaning, what inspired you to start your own business? How did your journey begin?
Oh my gosh. So I love this question. And I think this is probably my favorite question that you ask all of your guests, because I think that it highlights that we all have different paths to entrepreneurship and that it looks so different for everybody and that there's no wrong answer or wrong way. I would have to say that I'm a child of entrepreneurs. My parents had their own businesses when I was a kid, so that was kind of already embedded in my DNA. I've had a couple of like corporate jobs and other things. I had a photography business for 13 years. And then I went back when my daughter was born, I went back to the corporate work and ended up getting a job in marketing and working for a marketing agency. And that all came about because of my photography work. That I had a boss at the time that I was just working as a receptionist at a real estate office, and she asked a question if I could help her adjust some stuff because I knew Photoshop, and she was working on some direct mail, something or other, and I was like, yeah, I can help you, because the assistant was out, and she liked the work that I did, and so then I got more work, and next thing I know, I'm the marketing assistant. And so I didn't go to school for marketing. Everything I know, I learned on the job or by going to conferences, or just, I'm a lifelong learner, so I am not mad about that. But then fast forward to the end of 2017, and I'd been working in a marketing agency for 5 years. And in 2017, I was also embroiled in a very challenging family court battle with the father of my child, as well as a criminal court battle with him as well, because um, he had attacked our daughter pretty viciously at the beginning of the year. So we went through, oh my gosh, it was 5 months in court, but it was, by the time we got everything done, it was almost 10 months that we had just been back and forth, back and forth. And somewhere towards the end of that journey, all of a sudden my job no longer existed and I was no longer needed. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't need this right now. The one thing that I had to hold on to was the stability of my job. But then I realized that, like, no, actually not working for somebody, but being able to work for myself gives me the flexibility, because now, like overnight, I went from being a part-time co-parent to a full-time solo parent. And I needed that flexibility. And so I was just like, well, I know how to do the things. I can just start something. And so that was when I started my marketing business, was the end of 2017. And it was pretty rough those first couple of years, figuring out what my niche was, what I wanted to do, what kind of clients I wanted to work with, making enough money to live. I tell this story a lot. In March of 2019, I had made $850 that month. That was my whole income for the entire month. And I was just like, I was on the verge of being evicted. I was working with my landlord to try and get that squared away. My daughter was dealing with all of the traumatic stress that was falling out from what had happened to her a couple of years ago. And it was so much. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, why did I make this decision? It's absolutely 100% insane. And I think my car got repoed that month too. It was like everything. It was just like all the things that had me questioning everything. And then one of my former coworkers called and said, hey, this company that I work with is looking for somebody to do some marketing automation stuff. Do you want to come in and talk to them? And I was like, sure. And then I ended up landing this huge contract. So by June, I was making $10,000 a month. And it was just like crazy. It was crazy. I couldn't even believe how quickly things turned around once things started to work out. And then I started building a client base from there. And then fast forward to January of 2020, I had a nice solid client, like 4 or 5 clients that I was doing a lot of work for. I was feeling really good about it. The pandemic set in and I wasn't super worried. But one of my clients came to me and said, hey, we have a lot of work. We can't afford to pay your consulting rates, but we'll bring you on part-time. We'll pay you the salary. We'll give you insurance. And you could still work with your other clients because none of them are conflicting with what we do. And I was like, this seems great. But turns out it wasn't great. But during that period of time, in the early days of the pandemic, I started to think, I really need to talk about our story and like what my daughter and I had been through and what I had been through as a mother. And so I've always been a writer, and I've been getting published and starting to just share some stories that way. And the week before the pandemic, like the world shut down, one of my friends invited me to come hear her practice her TEDx talk that she was giving the following week. And I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that. That sounds really cool. And through all my work at the agency, I was one of the public speakers that was going out and talking about what we were doing and all the systems that we were building for people. And so public speaking wasn't new to me, and like they had hired me a coach and all this stuff. But there was something about that night that was just particularly magical. And I loved it. And I walked away feeling like, wow, that was really different. I think I want to know more. And that was actually my first Woman Speak circle that I had ever attended. So Woman Speak was founded by Casey Baker, and her whole entire method is really about tapping into that feminine energy and really learning how to speak from your core and speak just knowing that you know what you're going to say, and like feeling deeply rooted in that confidence, not getting up in your head, but really like rooting down into your gut. So as I'm going through this Women Speak experience during the pandemic, we were doing it all virtually. And through that summer of 2020, it really, I'm gonna not overstate this when I say it saved my life. Like being able to go to this space where we had all of this really beautiful community, positive energy with all of these beautiful faces from all over the world. Like literally, we had women in Australia, in Africa, in England. I think there was a woman in India, all over the world. So it was just really beautiful. And so when the opportunity came up at the end of 2021, she had invited me to join her new coach program. And I was like, I did not have that on my bingo card, but that sounds interesting. I had zero intentions of going into coaching. I was just like, my marketing stuff is fine. The company that hired me as an employee ended up being awful, and I quit and I went back out on my own, and I was doing fine. And so then I made the decision that I wanted to try this. And so I went through the coaching program, and as I was working with all my practice clients, I discovered that like not only do I really love this work, I'm really good at it. And it feels good to say that because that's also something that as women, we're not allowed to talk about. We're not allowed to brag about ourselves. And I love what Lovey says. She says, it's not bragging if it's facts, right? Like, so, and I just get so much joy out of it. So over the last couple of years, I've been sunsetting my marketing work and really focused on speaker messaging and supporting speakers and getting their voices out there. Because I am my first best client of knowing that when we share our stories, that's how we make change.
Yeah. I love that.
I feel like I just talked a lot.
No.
It was really good though. It was really great.
It was really powerful. And I love how you ended that is when we share our stories, that's how we make change. And that's just such a good reminder that, especially like as women, I just feel like that hasn't really been taught necessarily to us, especially in this space of running our own businesses. And it really is important because our experience, all of us have different experiences. We have different backgrounds that we come from, and we have different things to offer. And I think my whole life anyway, I've been really inclined to just kind of like keep that in and not share my hardships because I didn't want like someone to judge me or think that I was weak or think I didn't know what I was talking about or, and so breaking out of that habit has been really difficult, but it's been really necessary as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Well, and like, I love that you just said that because I think so often, especially as women, we don't want to talk about the things that are hard for us. We don't want to, because we don't want to be perceived that we're failing, right? Because it's that whole thing about like, you have to be twice as good to be perceived as half as much, right? And so it's like, we don't talk about the things that are hard for us, that we maybe don't understand, where we're struggling, and we struggle in silence. And it's not just in the business world. Like there's so many other places. Like I don't know how many business owners I know that will come into a space and they're just not okay. And you can see it because you can feel the energy of like something's going on. And it's like, well, my mom was just diagnosed with cancer, or, my friend just died and I just felt like I didn't know what to do and I need to be here, but I don't want to be the Debbie Downer that brings down the whole room, right? Like, so we're like holding all this stuff in, not talking about the things that are challenging us, when that's the beauty. That was the thing that I learned in those circles that summer, was like people were coming into that space and being raw and honest, and like, yeah, it's really hard for me to function right now when I'm watching people be murdered on TV, right? Like I don't know how to deal with this. And people still, like, you can acknowledge that. And actually, I feel like it kind of takes away the power when you speak to it and you can say, yeah, the world is really, really hard right now. And here's what I'm trying to do.
And here's how I'm trying to make a solution for, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like it's really interesting too, because I feel like you and I process so much stuff together, but I mean, it helps to get it out there and make you feel less alone when you're like, oh my God, somebody else is dealing with the same thing. and they're surviving and they're making their way through it. So you don't have to go it alone. Yeah.
Well, and I say this all the time, like, this is why the Me Too movement was so powerful, right? Is it's like at the boldness of stripping down the shame to say, this is something that happened to me, it gave so many other people permission to strip their shame off and say, me too. Mm-hmm. And that was a big reason why I started sharing my story and talking about it publicly, was because I was fighting that in my group of friends, my suburban mom friends that were all in healthy partnered relationships, didn't understand what I was going through as a single parent. And it wasn't until I started talking about what we were dealing with, and I found my family court Me Too people, right? Like, that's a whole hashtag on Instagram. And it was just like, I found the people that got it, but I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't have opened my mouth and started talking about it. And I think that there's business owner Me Too, and there's, parents of toddlers Me Too. Like, that's the story, right? That's the connection piece.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all human, and we're all experiencing life together. And the more we open up and connect with others and relate to others, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah.
Especially,
and I think we're all figuring it out, right?
Yeah. Nobody has the answer. Like, anybody who says they have the answer, 100% don't trust them.
Yeah.
Like,
right?
Yeah. Did you know I could make you $1 million tomorrow? But somehow,
none of us actually have the answers. So if you're gonna be all confident and say that you know what it's like, not true. Not real. It just reminds me of like the girl boss era of like marketing. That's like, sign up. I've got all the answers. So sign up now for this, $1 million course, and you'll make blah, 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 blah tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your solution.
Yeah. And it's like, if it was that simple and that direct, like, everybody would be a millionaire.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I have our next question. So what piece of advice would you give yourself when you started, knowing what you do now?
Oh, I've been thinking about this question and thinking about it. And it's just, I think probably the answer that I would give is like, just roll with it, right? Like, I get so caught up, and I still do it. I'm going to use present tense language because I still do it. I get so caught up in this idea that what I'm doing is failing. And I took a coaching program a couple years ago that she changed that language for me. And she's like, everything that we're doing is an experiment. The experiment either worked out the way that you thought or it didn't. There's no failure in that. Like, you learned something either way. If it didn't turn out the way that you thought it would, get curious about it. And see what you can do differently, what you can tweak, all those things. If it did turn out the way you thought, like, how do you iterate and make it better? But like, I spend so much energy beating myself up for like, oh, well, that totally failed. I put this whole thing out there. Gosh, I had a program that I have not tried to relaunch. And I know that the reason that I haven't tried to relaunch it is because I have this perception in my brain that it failed, because I have, my thought leadership library program that I really, really want to put out into the world.
I want you to do
that Ashlyn has said, I'm dying for this. Victoria has said, I'm dying for this. Megan Ekman has said, I'm dying for this. Like, and not just within the Commonwealth. Like, I have other people in my circle that are like, I really want this. But I wanted to launch this at the beginning of January last year, 2024. I put out this whole marketing effort. I showed up to Creative Mornings. Like, I talked about it, put up the sales page, and like, nothing. I mean, crickets. And I had spent like 2 months.
Was this January of last year?
Of 2024.
Yeah. January of last year fucking sucked. I don't know. I tried to start something too. I don't know what people were on.
I don't know what people were doing, but I was just like, I'm going to kick off the new year with a new program. It's going to be so great. And like, and I was coming out of a pretty significant mental health crisis. Like, I had a pretty rough 2023. And so like, this was me like, I'm getting back in the game. I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm a hard pivot into this new business. Turns out when you offer marketing services and speaking services, it's a totally different audience. So like I started a new business. I didn't just pivot, right? And so that was one of the things that I learned. But also it was like I had spent 2 months trying to market that, but it was like October, November, December. Who's paying attention to programs or any of that? So like even thinking about the timing of when I launched that wasn't great. But then it was funny because I was like, oh, nobody signed up, not one person. And I was just like, this sucks. And I'm like, I failed. And then a couple of months later, I get this DM in my Instagram from this girl that had seen the advertising that I had done. And she's like, hey, did you ever do that thing? Because I really want to do it whenever you offer it again. I just couldn't do it in January. And I was like, oh, so people actually do care. And then I got another person that said that and another person that said that. And so now it's like, okay, it's not that I have a terrible idea. I just learned about executing it differently or better or whatever. So, but that seed of failure is still a major blocker for me in putting it out there again.
Fall is a great time for new beginnings.
I am putting it on the calendar to launch so that we start in September.
Yeah.
I'm saying it out loud.
Yes.
Well, and if it makes you feel better, like I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you said that like sometimes failure isn't necessarily failure. It's just you learn from it and then you pivot and you evolve and adjust. And I think like as an example, Ashlyn and I started our course Take the Leap back in 2022. And it was a live workshop. And we went through that whole thing and then we recorded the course like later that year. I was very pregnant during this time frame and recorded the course. And then we went to edit it, realized that it was not
what we needed.
It was not good for consumption, human consumption. And we re-recorded it again. And then since then, we've put it on one platform and then we've migrated it to another platform. So we've literally gone through 4 or 5 versions of this course that we're now launching again. And like, it's been years in the making. And like through that, like we started this podcast and we've done like a lot of other things too. So it's just like, all of that to say is like, like what you said, the idea wasn't a failure. Sometimes like everybody has their own journey. Sometimes in order to learn who needs it and, how to make it successful, you kind of have to go through some of those too.
Well, and Tori, I think
it's not good too, but it might not work
I think,
too, but sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's all good. I think you also really just hit the nail on the head with something else, which is that there's this perception that these things that are out there are ideas that somebody came up with and they went to the computer and they're like, sales page, boom, selling. Years. These are years, right? Like some of these ideas, like I have a whole idea bank of just ideas that I jot down when I'm in the shower or, when I'm driving. My voice recorder is my best friend. I'm like, put this in my idea bank. I have tons of ideas, but I know because I've learned the hard way, you can't execute everything at the same time. And so like when I think about these ideas, like these are ideas that have been percolating sometimes for a long time. And then it's just like putting all the pieces into place to make them be what they are and then iterating on them to make them better and better and better.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, ideas are really, really great, but the work it takes to actually execute on them, like the timing has to be right. You might not be in the mental space for it. It's just there's so many factors that go into it.
Oh, go ahead. Nope.
Oh,
you go.
I'm wondering if there's just enough of a delay that we're talking over you guys. I'm sorry, but I was just gonna say like the timing too. I mentioned that mental health crisis that I had, and so I have a new retreat that I'm planning. storyteller summer camp for the end of July. And this is, again, an idea that's been in my brain for like 3 or 4 years now. Like before I ever started doing the speaker coach thing, I'm like, wouldn't it be fun to da 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 da? And I was fully planning to do it last summer, and I was so excited about it. And then last year was just like May of 2023 till like October of 2024. It was just like the worst time of my life. One of the worst times of my life. I've had lots of worst times of my life, but like, I realize now in hindsight, like I was not in the mental space to pull off something like that at all. Like it would have been a shitty experience if I showed up and tried to like teach people how to do storytelling and like all this writing. It's a writing retreat, so like do all this writing stuff when I'm just like so in my head about my own stuff, right? So like there's a lot of times when I look back and I think, oh, that thing didn't work out on the timeline that I originally thought because I just didn't have capacity and I wasn't consciously aware that I couldn't have pulled off and provided the experience that I wanted for people.
I also feel like we need to come up with like not so rigid success metrics.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we need to celebrate that we do like we did a thing, even if it didn't turn out the way that we wanted. Because I mean, like you said with your you have all the content from your thought leadership library stuff. You just need to figure out the time to run it again, you know?
Yes.
And
that's huge. Having all the content, that's huge in itself. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's even just the little things, right? The like, I did that. Like I laugh about the fact that just joining the Commonwealth got me to finally start sending my newsletter again. And I started out with like, it's been 233 weeks since I sent a newsletter.
Yep. Same.
Right? Like, I'm just going to celebrate that I sent the newsletter, even though it's messy.
Same. I've been so enjoying, this is like a side tangent about how much I love the Commonwealth. I have been so enjoying everybody's newsletters and everybody's content that they've been posting. It's been so great to see because like I ignore 90% of the newsletters in my inbox, but anytime I get one from you guys, immediately open it up and I look at it and I read it.
What do they have to say?
Wow, they're so great. And I've never in my head thought, oh, this is a shitty newsletter, or like, you know, like I've never had a negative thought about any of our stuff. It's always been so lovely to just see like what's going on and like how people are processing things and like, you know, what they're doing. And I think it's really cool. So yes, I agree with you. The Commonwealth has definitely encouraged me to just start getting out there again and doing things again.
Well, and we're rad, so there's that. I was telling a woman, she's the executive director for the Women's Foundation of Colorado. I was telling her on Monday night about us. She's like, wait, what's this group? And I'm like, there's only 10 of us. I think there's 9 of us now. But like, I was like, it's a very small group and like, it's invite only and it's just us. And this is what we're doing. And she's like, that's amazing. Like she got so excited just hearing about the idea of this thing that I was like, maybe this will inspire other business owners to create their own little commonwealths, right?
Yeah. Create your community. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're a group of business owners and we want to get together and encourage each other and refer each other and inspire other people. And I think, it's been really, really fun. Really fun. Yeah. Shout out to Mary and Megan for making it happen.
Yeah. Talk about ideas. Ideas that came to fruition.
I mean, if there's 2 people that are amazing at ideas, it's those 2. They are incubator brains.
For sure.
Awesome. I don't know if we've talked about what all our human designs are, but now I want to know.
I think we're both generators.
I'm a
generator.
Yeah. I don't remember. I have to go back.
I think
and look.
you're. I think
probably it sounds right.
Yeah, but we're 2 different kinds of generator. I know I'm a 6-2, which is
I'm a 5-1. Yeah.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it again for sure.
Okay. Last question before we put you in the hot seat. What's your why? Why did you choose entrepreneurship?
Oh, I love this question. I kind of alluded to it already, but I, I'm still going to identify as a single solo parent because I am still that, even though my daughter is 19 and she's out on her own now, which is amazing. But like, that was always my why from the time that she was little. When I had the photography business, I was working a lot of nights and weekends, and she was in childcare for all day long. And then I would go pick her up from daycare, and then I would take her over to the night care, and she'd be there. And so I realized that like my kid was spending all of her awake time with other people, and it was awful. And I was doing that because the nighttime job was helping to pay for all of the childcare because my daytime job was covering rent and other necessities. And so it was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I need to do something that's got a lot more flexibility. She was getting ready to start school. And I was just like, I don't want to be the mom that can't come because I'm busting my ass working for other people. Like, I want to be able to show up to those afternoon sessions. Like, this is probably my biggest parenting pet peeve. Like, parents work. Please stop scheduling things for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But also, like, you know, or maybe the answer really is, hey bosses, let your parents go to their kids' things. It's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? But that was the biggest part of my why. And then after what we went through with all the court stuff, and she needed some pretty serious trauma therapy and support in that. Like 2017 through 2021 were just brutal. And it was just really hard. And I just needed to have the flexibility to be like, okay, I need to spend my time right now focused on my kid.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. I hope she's grateful for that, but I'm grateful that I have that flexibility. Because I think that
it now, she will eventually.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, I also love that I was able to be there for so many things and like participate and be a member of the community that she was part of too. And I wasn't, you know, I'm not knocking the parents that can't be there and want to be. But like, I'm just grateful that I was able to be there for so much of her growing up because of that. That's my big why. My kid.
That's my big why as well. Yeah. Just kids. Yeah. They're only kids for so long.
Dude, he is getting so big so fast. Yeah.
Well, and until we have like a corporate work culture that supports working parents, like entrepreneurship is a really, really good option. I know entrepreneurship's not for everyone, but I do know a lot of parents that are entrepreneurs because of their kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it checks out. I like that you said that though, until we have a corporate world that supports working parents, this is like one of the best options. And it's sad that it has to be that way, but hopefully some entrepreneurs, you know, like I don't have a team, but some entrepreneurs build businesses that require hiring people and creating teams. And hopefully we can inspire those entrepreneurs to create that kind of culture within their small businesses so that, you know, you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur because you're a parent. Yeah. If you don't want to.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like they say that entrepreneurs are the ones who like, we build the communities, right? Like it's small businesses. It's us hiring local folks and giving people jobs. And like, I'm a mentor for a program that we have in our public school district that has, it's really, really cool. Basically it's like every high school I think has like a VOTEC program, but it's like that, but on steroids. And so it's called the EPIC campus, and it's exploratory pathways and innovative careers. And so they have like 7 different buckets of things that you can explore. So they've got aerospace, construction, health sciences, which my daughter got her CNA through that, environmental sciences, business, education, and computer science. So like all the kids that go through this program get a professional certification. It's not geared for like, oh, you're going off to college. But if you want to go off to college, you could. But like the kids that are in the construction program are getting like their professional licenses with LEED certification so they can go out and get jobs as apprentices. So anyway, so I've become a business mentor in their business and entrepreneurship program, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And it's just so cool because like I'm getting to work with really cool kids, and I'm like, man, I really wish that my business was big enough that I could hire you to come work for me, right? Because even though they're in the entrepreneurship program, they want to start their own businesses. Like they're like really passionate, and I think that any entrepreneur that wants to be able to employ people is already doing good things in the world. But like that's again how we build community, you know.
Yeah, agreed. I love that. I love that response. Well, are you ready to jump into our hot seat questions?
Yes, because I'm, despite the fact that I'm wearing a tank top, I'm actually freezing. It's like 70 outside, and I was like, I've been working out on the patio all day and like being a total potato, like baking in the sun, and it's been lovely. But inside, it's not that warm. So put me on the hot seat, warm me up.
Let's do it. I'm going to kick it off with my favorite, which is, what is the best and or worst advice you've received in your career?
Oh my gosh. Why do I need a minute to think about this? Because I've gotten so much like bad advice.
Oh yeah.
So much. Well, actually, let me tell you this. The worst advice that I've ever received came from my dad. And I didn't realize that it was the worst advice until like 5-6 years ago. He had told me, and I think that this is part of why I do what I do. He had told me, he's like, if you ever want to be taken seriously in business, you need to learn how to shake hands like a man. And I think that breaks down like everything that women have been told since we entered the workforce, is that we need to show up like men. And that's not true. We need to show up like ourselves. And everyone needs to show up like themselves. You don't have to try to be something else.
Totally.
Thanks, Dad.
I had like a vision of, you know how Trump awkwardly shakes people? That's literally what my brain put in my head, is this like weird handshake.
Well, and what's funny is that, of course, I took that advice to heart, and I have a very masculine handshake, and it gets a comment every single time. And I'm just like, yeah. Like, oh, wow, that's quite a handshake.
I definitely relate to that, because I don't know who it was that told me that, but I do. Everyone's like, you have to have a good handshake. You have to act like a man. And like, kind of, I think we were just talking about this. We, like, as women, have to show up and not be like vulnerable, not cry in the workplace, not show emotion, not like tell the hard part. Well, we were just talking about this earlier in this episode, not show the hard parts of your story, because you have to show up like a man in order to be successful, which is not true at all.
Well, and even like the speaker coach that I had, I joke, I say this jokingly, but I'm still unlearning the things that I was taught by this woman back 10 years ago, right? Like, because she also was teaching me how to present very masculinely and like be in this very performative state when I'm on stage. And I am, as you can tell, I'm a gesticulator. So like, it was, you need to figure out where you're going to stand, and you need to keep your hands still. And I remember when I was in my master class with Casey, she was like, Eunice, what are you doing with your hands? Like, where are your hands? Because I was just like sitting there, and I was talking like this, and she's just like, that's not even you. Like, I need you to use your hands. And so even clearing that mental block, but I realized that like that's a very masculine way of public speaking. Let's lean into our feminine.
I love that. That's a really good answer.
All right, you teased it earlier. Tell me, what is Storyteller Summer Camp? What are you doing with folks?
So Storyteller Summer Camp is a writing retreat that I'm hosting in Cannon Beach, Oregon at the end of July. It's going to be a real small retreat that's 6 participants max. And we're going to get together. We're going to have some fun, get out in nature, And it's so funny because I think a lot about retreats that some people go on, and it's like heavy itinerary, heavy, busy, busy, busy. I want us to like channel sloth mode and like really get into our bodies, get into the environment that we're in. And then I have a few workshops to help people learn how to write stories that heal, write stories that connect, and write stories that inspire change. As I've alluded to, that's what I do, because that's what I've found is that like I got started with my writing career by writing about what was happening to me, and then that's what inspired me to talk about it, and that was what built connection to the communities that I needed to be a part of. And then now that has translated into activism work, and you will find me at the state capitol advocating for change.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. I'm really excited you're doing that retreat. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I'm terrified. I've never hosted a retreat before. And maybe that's why it's taken me so long to put it out there into the world. But like everybody I tell about it, they're like, that sounds rad. And I was like, also there will be s'mores.
There will be s'mores. That's a selling point right there. Well, and for those who are listening, if that sounds like something you're interested in the show notes, we are going to have a link to where you can go and sign up for the retreat. So if you are listening to this before the end of July, that's when you said it is, right?
Yep.
So if you're listening to this before the end of July, go ahead and check out the show notes, and you can go ahead and sign up for the retreat.
That's so awesome. I could be in Cannon Beach tomorrow. So
yeah.
There you go.
And if you're listening to this after July and it sounds like something you want to do, let me know. And I'm sure we'll be doing it again next year.
Yeah. And if you've never been to Cannon Beach, it is beautiful. So that'll
It is one of my favorite places on the planet, and so that's why I live in Colorado. Everyone's like, why are you doing it in Oregon? And I'm like, because Oregon's awesome. But like Cannon Beach has a lot of memories for me, and so it's just a place that I go when I need to feel inspired, when I need to feel grounded, and all of those things. And I've learned that when you feel inspired and grounded, writing actually comes very easily.
Yeah.
When it's next to the ocean, I don't know. I'm an ocean child,
Same,
so like
yeah.
anything near the ocean is always great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ocean is totally my renewal platform.
Same. And I love the Oregon coast ocean in particular. Like
The best.
Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, like I don't necessarily need the beach to be hot and sunny, like because I'm just so used to that, and I'm totally fine if it's. I love a good sunny day at the beach, but I also am totally fine with a moody, cloudy, stormy day at the beach too. Like
Same.
I almost get more inspired by that, I think.
Yeah, Oregon coast is my favorite coast, and then my second favorite would be New England. So.
Fair, yeah. It's really pretty over there too.
Which is very similar, right? It's that like rainy, kind of moody, rocky beach more than like you're not walking around barefoot on the beach.
Yeah. I love that. Well, kind of pivoting slightly to a different topic here. So you help speakers, and you like you said, you help them find their voice and their stories so that they can share that with the world. So what advice would you give to maybe new business owners or people who've been like afraid to talk about their story, or maybe just somebody who's like really afraid of public speaking? Like, what is some advice you would give them to help them kind of start to find their voice and kind of get back out there?
I love this question. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Well, so I talk a lot about this, is that if you have this idea, this soul tug, whether it's to start a business, whether it's to talk about something, whether it's to write about something, it's because it wants to be in the world, right? Like that's your first signal that something needs to exist, is that the desire, the idea, the pull towards it exists. And I think if we truly just followed our intuition every single time, there would be so many amazing things that existed in this world, because it's once the head trash gets in the way, that's what holds us back, right? And it's like, no, follow that. Like, get curious about it. Like, why are you so interested in this? Why do you want to start your business? Why do you want to talk about the thing you want to talk about? When I work with speakers, and I work with a lot of TEDx hopefuls, the thing that that we talk about in the program that I co-run with my co-facilitator Jen Oliver is like, think about why. Why is it that you want to talk about this thing? And what is it that you want for your audience? And it's the same thing with a business, right? Why do you want to start the business? What problem are you looking to solve? And what are you offering to your potential clients?
I love that. That's a really good answer. I like that.
All right, kind of along the same lines, you talked a little bit about being a domestic violence survivor earlier. How do you help folks share, or like, how do you personally share deeply vulnerable stories, and how would you recommend that folks be prepared to share these more vulnerable stories?
Oh, that's such a good question. And this comes up all the time. I was just talking about it last night with another survivor, is because there's a fine line between I'm sharing my story and trauma dumping, right? Like nobody wants that. I can talk, and it has taken me many years to figure out how to talk about my experience without traumatizing someone else. And so it's really talking about like, yes, you could talk about the details of what happened to you, but you don't need to tell all of the details, right? I'm actually kind of vague in what I talk about, like what happened to my daughter, because nobody needs to know exactly what happened. They just need to know that she was a 10-year-old who was violently attacked by her father. I think you can kind of fill in contextually what might have happened to her, but nobody needs those details. And so I think that that's a big piece of it. Shame holds us back because a lot of survivors feel like we asked for this, we did this, because that's the narrative in society, right? Is that like, well, what did you do? Why didn't you leave? Why did you make him angry? Why did da 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 da? And so learning how to shed that shame helps. But again, I'm going to say it again, like getting embodied, like being so in touch with your own body makes all of this so much easier, because you think about like public speaking, you have the nerves start to come up. What it is it's a trauma response, right? Like your body is like, oh my gosh, this scary thing is about to happen. And so then all of your body gets flooded with cortisol, and you're in an active trauma state. And so when you can get regulated and come back into that parasympathetic rest and digest state, you can speak so much better because your body is ready. You're fully embodied. And then the beautiful thing about that is that you also connect in with your audiences, right? Because they can feel you. I just heard a speaker last night, a DV survivor, a very young DV survivor, and she stood up to give the keynote at this event. And she said, she's like, I'm so excited for those of you that are here, the couple of people I know, and the rest of you. So she's acknowledging what's happening in the room. And then she said, I'm just going to take a minute to take it all in. And she just like, and that was her getting back into her body and regulating her nervous system so that she could speak. But then it was also preparing the rest of us to receive her message, because now we're all taking that deep breath and we're all getting into our bodies. And so it creates this beautiful exchange of energy and this connectedness. Embodied speakers are so much more impactful, so much more powerful than the ones that can just get up and memorize a script and regurgitate it and perform it, right? Yeah. There's a place for that. But I find that the speakers that I connect with the most and that are most memorable to me, I know that they were like fully present and sharing, like it's a sharing of the space.
Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. That's a really good point. Like, I like what you said about being in your body. It's just, life in general can be very stressful. And I feel like, especially if you've been through any sort of trauma, which most of us have to some degree, like your body just learns how to react without you giving permission to do that. And it can just be so easy to just kind of put your head down and keep going. And then you just kind of forget. And I love that. That's a really good reminder. Not super related to public speaking, but just in general, like one thing that I've been really trying to do is like at the end of the night, like because I do find my body just like reacting, I'm trying to like help my nervous system just like calm down so that I can go to bed not super anxious. And like I'm trying to like experiment with like different things of like, you know, what will help me with that. And so
Yeah.
that has made me like a less stressed human when I do that. And it's
Yeah.
made me have like better conversations with people. It's made me like focus more. And I can tell the difference when I'm practicing that pretty regularly versus the weeks that I'm not. Like I can tell that it makes a difference in my daily life.
Yeah,
So I
because
can imagine.
like you're regulating your nervous system by doing that. And when you do that, your body can actually go to sleep and rest and repair and do all the things that it needs to do. So then when you wake up in the morning, you're like, I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's so basic. It's a basic human body process. And it's so simple, and yet it's so hard for so many of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you also said it really, you know, the speaker that you were describing of like breathing, bringing everybody into the space. I feel like sometimes speakers, I don't know if it's that they're nervous or whatnot, but like they talk so fast and they get through it. Like pause for impact. Actually, more silence is better. Well, and taking pauses and having like intentional quiet space. So I just did a presentation this past weekend to chapter leaders of the American Marketing Association on like managing time and priorities. And like I had very little on my slides. We had lots of pauses and reflective moments. Like I gave them a worksheet to fill out and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm not going to time you guys, but like write down, you know, like write stuff. And I'm just going to like watch the room. And then when I started to see people like, you know, stop writing as much, I'm like, okay, we're going to go on to the next slide. But it was so impactful because I had lots of pauses and like reflective time and like gave space for people to ask questions. Whereas like many of the other speakers that weekend, like they ran out of time. They were going like through everything so fast. And it's like, if you make everything that you're saying super intentional, like less is more, I feel like, you know, and if you think about everything that people can remember from a keynote speech or something, like layer in the details that you want to be remembered and don't overfill basically fill the void with like noise because it has no impact if you have silence.
And I see this a lot with speakers, regardless of how long you have, you want to say the most that you can in the time that you have. But that doesn't mean that you have to use that with words. One of the things that we're talking about right now is I got to work with a speaker a couple months ago who was invited to do this talk format where every single person had 3 minutes. Like 3 minutes is not a lot of time, right? And so what we worked on was how she could, like, which details in the story said a lot without saying a lot, right? So like she starts the story off with like, here I am on the floor of my shower, water's running down my back, and I had just declined dinner with somebody. She had just declined dinner, and I had all this shame because I didn't say no, not because I didn't want to go, but because I felt like I couldn't, like I wasn't smart enough to be at the table. Oh. Well, I think that that's powerful, right? But then she asks me, she's like, well, does it matter who I went to dinner with? I'm like, well, who was it that you were supposed to go to dinner with? And she's like, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. I'm like, that detail is absolutely important because it highlights like why you didn't feel like you belonged at that table, right? And then there were other details later in her story that we kind of trimmed out because it was like, you can say so much with only saying a few words. And so it's learning how to be judicious with the words that you're using, the pauses that you're using. Mm-hmm. Never underestimate the power of a good deep breath. But like really, like you said, be intentional with it. Like I think that so many people are just like, I got to get all this information out. It's like, no, leave them wanting more. Then they'll take your card and they'll call you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's great. Well, our final question is a complete pivot from what we've been talking about. And it is, what is something that's been on repeat on your playlist, whether a song or album, that you are currently obsessed with?
Oh my gosh. Why do I not think of this? So I don't know if I can put it down to one song, because I have a hype playlist that is just like, I put it on in the morning before I go to speak, and it's got like a variety of songs on there. One of them is Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande, Rain on Me. Like, that is one of my favorite. You know what? Actually, I will just use that one, because when I spoke at my conference a couple weeks ago, I am not kidding you. I got dressed. That song just happened to be the one that came on. And I like literally stopped everything I did and had a whole like one woman dance party. It got to the end. I repeated it to the point that I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm sweaty and I need to go downstairs and like talk. But like, I probably listened to that song like 4 or 5 times in a row. And I think I always do that whenever I hear that song, because it's just like, I just love that. Like, I don't know. It's a fun song to dance to. And it's like, yeah, that's
I
my
love
answer.
that. It's a great one.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. We'll add that to the
Take the Leap playlist that we have to make.
Yeah. We'll publish it probably towards the end of season 2, when we have.
Yeah, I'm dying to hear the whole playlist.
Yeah,
I love a good playlist. Like, I am a child of the '90s, where making a mixtape was like, you know, I still have some of those mixtapes, and then like I actually found one of my old mixed CDs that I made.
Nice. I think all of my mixed CDs ended up they were so scratched that I think they all just ended up in the garbage, unfortunately.
From riding around in the glove box of the car.
Yep. And just like grabbing them too, like they'd be in like the visor or wherever, and I would just like I had no care for any of my belongings. I just
You remember when you used to like let people borrow your CDs?
Oh yeah.
And they'd like give them back to you, and then you wouldn't have like, for some reason you wouldn't have listened to it right away, and then you're just like, fucking bitch, you
ruined it. What did you do?
And like repurchasing a CD because you're just like, the one I had was scratched.
Simple times back then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and having this conversation with us. Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask you, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners that we haven't covered yet? And also, is there anything you want to promote and say to our listeners?
Well, I would like to say to both of you, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
We'll have to have you back on for sure.
Yeah, I'm like so excited. And this is probably going to sound cliche, and I don't even care, but like, take the leap. You know, the worst thing that can happen is that you learn something new about yourself, right? Like, truly, there will be months that you might make $850 and it's going to suck. That's just entrepreneurship, right? But like, you don't necessarily have any more job security working for somebody else, because I watched my whole career disappear overnight, right? Like, no, like, just if you're feeling that tug, if you're feeling that call, just like figure out how to make it work, and don't think that it has to happen overnight. Like, it can take years. Just take the leap.
I love that. Thank you. And for those of you listening, if you want to follow Eunice or see anything she's doing right now, just check out the show notes. We have all of her links in there. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on Instagram, shoot us a DM, or you can email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. And until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Eunice, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank
you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.